Hello and welcome to Lapping Analytics. My name is Jimmy Lapping. I'm a psychologist and statistician and interested in a range of topics, including the prediction of sports events. And of course, now we're in the middle of the World Championship Soccer with tonight the first match in the round of 32 between South Africa and Canada. So I wanted to shoot this video and post it just before that match starts. What am I going to do? Well, I'm going to give a forecast of or prediction of the 16 matches of the round of 32 to start with South Africa versus Canada using a very simple statistical model which I've used on my channel before. How does it work? Well, we have group results for each of the two teams that are competing. So for South Africa, for instance, the first match was lost with 2-0, the second was a draw, 1-1, and the third match they won 1-0, due to which they landed second in the group. Canada started with a draw, 1-1, then a 6-0 win, and then a 1-2 loss. So these are the data that we have for each of the two teams. They gave a total of 12 data points, three numbers of goals in favor of South Africa, 3 against, and here 3 numbers of goals in favor of Canada and against. So how do we use that information to come to a simple statistical calculation of who's most likely to win tonight? Well, so first of all, the goals scored by South Africa, 0, 1, 1, they land here. The goals that South Africa conceded, 2, 1 and 0, they land here, because this actually gives information about the scoring potential of an opponent against South Africa. So in this case that would be Canada. Well, for the Canadians we do exactly the other way around. Well, we have 1, 6 and 1. This is an indication of the scoring potential of Canada in this tournament, whereas the 1, 0 and 2, the numbers of goals against for Canada, well, that gives some information about the scoring potential of an opponent against Canada in this tournament. So the goals against for South Africa are basically used as information for Canada as an opponent, and the goals that Canada conceded against other opponents is used as information for South Africa as team competing against Canada in this case. So what do? We subtract each of these numbers. We take 0 for South Africa minus 1 from Canada. So from these numbers we subtract these. So we get a total of 6 by 6 comparisons, because we have 6 data points for each team. So we get 36 different outcomes, some of which are negative, because in this case 0 minus 1. That's minus 1, so this would be in favor of Canada. 1 minus 1 equals 0, so there are a number of 0 cells which would indicate a tie or a draw, and the positive numbers would be goal differences in favor of South Africa. So there are a total of 36 comparisons. We basically see how many are in favor of South Africa. Well, there is a total of 7 of these 36 calculations. They land in favor of South Africa, 6 times 1 and 1 times 2. And then there are 12 0 cells, 1, 2, 3 here, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yes, 12 zeros. So those are the cells that would indicate a draw. And then we have a total of 17 in this case comparisons that result in favor of Canada. Well, because that's a negative number, so that means that the number of goals for Canada would exceed that of South Africa. So that would point at a Canada win. When we summarize that, we see, okay, 7 comparisons in favor of South Africa, 12 for a draw, 17 for Canada. Then we have in the second row here, those are the proportions of the 36 comparisons that land in favor of South Africa, a draw, or Canada win respectively. Then here the next row, sample, it's basically these proportion numbers calculated back to the original sample size. It's 12. Why 12? Because we have 6 data points for South Africa and 6 data points for Canada. So 2.30, so 2 1/3 plus 4 and 5 2/3, that adds to 12 in total. Then we add a prior distribution, because the model that I use is a Bayesian model, and here I use as a default prior 1, 1, 1, meaning a priori, no, in the absence of any prior knowledge, just two random teams meeting here, I would say, well, it could be either a win for team A, a win for team B, or a draw, and I don't assign any more likelihood to any of these outcomes specifically. So equally likely a priori, but of course the sample provides the actual data for these specific teams. Those two are added to come to a posterior distribution, which is in this case a distribution of 15, because it's 12 from the sample and 3 from the prior. So we get 3 1/3, 5, and 6 2/3, and then we convert that into probabilities, in this case probabilities from 0 to 100%, which means that having seen the data of these two teams, we give a 22.22% chance of a South Africa win after regular time, a 44.44% chance of a Canada win after regular time, and 1/3 or 33.33% chance of a draw. These numbers, if you add them, they add up to 99.99. Well, the difference from 100 is just rounding error. So these three together, they normally add up to 100. So in this case, these are the most important numbers for my prediction, because these tell me what's the probabilities for each of three possible outcomes: team A win, draw, or team B win, after regular time. Why after regular time? Well, because all these outcomes here that you see in marked in blue and in red, those are also regular time outcomes, because, well, in group matches there was no extra time in the sense of, okay, there was a draw after 90 minutes plus injury time, so we need 15 or 30 minutes more. No, we don't. Yet now, of course, in the playoffs, starting round of 32, only one can win, but still there is an outcome after regular time. And then, of course, there is an outcome after extra time. So how do I translate that? So basically, I've worked this out in this video for the first match, South Africa and Canada, but you can, of course, perfectly do that for each of the 16 matches that we have in the round of 32. And when you do that, here in the first row you see South Africa, Canada, which is the match that's going to start in, well, about an hour really, just after I post this video. So we see that there was a 44% chance of a Canada win, just over 44%, about a third chance of a draw, and 22 and a bit percent chance of a South Africa win. I've given that as a predicted regular time outcome a draw, because either the difference between the most likely outcome and the second most likely outcome is less than 10 percentage points. It's not the case here. Here it's 11. Or the sum of the second and third likely outcome exceeds 55%, which is the case here, because if Canada has a 44.44% chance of a win after regular time, that means that there is a nearly 56% chance of either a draw or a South Africa win. So in this case, I say that the outcome that I predict for the regular time is a draw, but given the higher probability of winning for Canada, the final outcome that I predict is a win for Canada, either after the 30 minutes that they add, or if it's needed penalties, then my prediction is that the Canadian team wins. Then you see for all the other 15 matches, I've basically done the same. So for Brazil, Germany, and the Netherlands, you see that the probabilities are clearly in favor of Brazil, Germany, and the Netherlands. Of course, there are still, according to this model, just over 50% chance that it's either a draw or a win for the other side. It's a possibility. More than anything, really, of this model pretending to give the correct outcomes, which it does in between 70 to 80% of the cases, but more than that, it's actually a model to express uncertainty for each of the matches, based on just the results of each of the teams in the tournament thus far. So we see Brazil, Germany, and the Netherlands are most likely to win after either regular time or extra time. But in this case, I say, okay, the sum of the other two probabilities is lower than 55%, and the distance, for instance, here for Brazil, Japan, almost 47%, just over 31%. This is over 15% difference, 15 percentage points difference. So in this case, I say, okay, Brazil win is the most likely outcome. Same for Germany here. Same for the Netherlands here. Here, Ivory Coast, Norway, you see another example of a scenario similar to what we have for South Africa, Canada. In the end, I predict that Ivory Coast will win, but for the regular time, I think this is one of the matches where it's most likely to, of these 16 matches, one of the matches where it's more likely to get a draw, even though a draw itself is not the most likely outcome in this calculation. Still, the other two probabilities win for either two teams, they almost cancel each other out. It's just 8.5, almost 9 percentage points difference, not that much really. So that's why I say the most likely outcome after regular time is a draw, and then after extra time or penalties, Ivory Coast should win. Then again, France, Mexico, England should have clear wins, especially France and Mexico. The probabilities are really in favor of both teams. Mexico is one of two teams so far, together with Spain, that haven't conceded a single goal in the tournament yet. That says something about their defensive capabilities. So in this case, France, Mexico, England, they are supposed to go through to the next round. At least that's the most likely outcome. Again, it's possible that in the end it works out differently in at least one of these matches, but based on the performances thus far, my best guess here is France, Mexico, and England going to the next round. Here with Belgium versus Senegal, it's really a scenario similar to Ivory Coast, Norway, with the difference between Team A win and Team B win. The probability is even smaller, not even 5 percentage points. So here I also say regular time, draw. At the end, the outcome is Belgium go through to the next round. Then USA and Spain, similar situations here. They should both win. Portugal versus Croatia is again similar to what we've seen for the other three matches thus far discussed, where there was a draw as predicted outcome for the regular time. That's also my prediction for Portugal versus Croatia. I mean, Portugal had two draws in the group round, for instance, as well. Yesterday, also against Colombia. Switzerland should actually have a fairly easy win. I predict Australia versus Egypt. It's again a scenario which is similar to something we've seen for South Africa versus Canada. Yes, the chances are slightly in favor of Egypt, but the difference here again between draw and Egypt win after regular time, that's less than 9 percentage points, and the sum of Australia win and draw, the sum of those probabilities is 60%, so over 55. So that's why I give draw as the most likely outcome for the regular time. Yet in the end, Egypt win. And then penultimate match, Argentina, Cape Verde, one of the surprises so far in the tournament, really. Cape done very well, 3 draws so far, including against Spain. And so in this case, Argentina should also win this match. It's a scenario pretty similar to what we see for USA, Spain, and for France. Normally Argentina should win this after regular time. And finally, Colombia, Ghana. Here it is again similar to what we have for, let's say, Australia, Egypt. Yes, slightly in favor of Colombia, but not that much difference. A bit more than 6 percentage points difference between probability of Colombia win and a draw probability. So in the end, again, the combined probability is 60% here for these two. So in this case, also Colombia would need extra time to beat Ghana. This is my prediction for the round of 32. Again, this model does not pretend to get the right outcome in all of these matches. In my experience so far, where I have applied it, usually between 70 and 80% of the cases, at least I get the direction right, either a draw or Team A win or Team B win. Whether it's closer to 70 or to 80 depends a little bit on the competition where it applies, and of course when it gets further to the semifinals and finals it's more difficult. You make mistakes more often, but because the probabilities go closer to well, it's closer to a 50-50 scenario. For instance, something like you have here with Mexico or France or Spain or USA, this kind of clear differences in favor of one team you tend to see in rounds of 32 or rounds of 16, but it's uncommon for a final, and well, so that means there is more probability for another outcome in a semi-final or final match. It can go either way, so that's why it's easier to have an incorrect outcome further down the tournament. But for the round of 32, this is my prediction. Yes, probably some matches will go differently because, well, those probabilities indicate that there is a lot of it's not certain at all. I mean, if you might ask some people, Spain versus Austria, some might say, oh, there's an 80% chance of a win for the Spanish team. Well, not based on the tournament results thus far, for instance. Still, Spain is more likely, but there's not an 80% chance according to this model. Okay, I hope you find this useful. If you like this content, you will find more on my channel, and before the round of 16 starts in about a week or so, I will do another video with the predictions for the round of 16. Thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and I hope to see you in the next video.